Well, good morning, and welcome back to Mirador on its regular programs on this Monday morning. And it's all over by the shouting. That's bonfire night. No, it's not, because many celebrations still take place in various locations around East Sussex, and quite often the bonfire people here climb onto buses and they go and they take part in those celebrations as well. So that was only really the kickoff on Saturday night, and what a splendid show it was. We must congratulate the bonfire societies for what they did. They did a splendid job. We watched it from the White Hart Hotel from the balcony. We had Lucy Newman, who had hired the sheriff's suite in the hotel to hold a party and watch the parades from an advantageous point of view, and she generously allowed us in on her act, as it were, to make sure that we could bring you some pictures of the events throughout the evening. But we are back to porridge this morning, and there are rather a lot of things going on this coming week, which we'll tell you about as we go on from time to time. I'm Keith Hayes, and this is
Max Hurd.
Max Hurd, better known as Mad Max. And he's feeling a little under the weather this morning, but by the time he's finished with this 2 hours, he'll be feeling on top of the world, believe me.
Yeah, I had to rush quickly this morning because I checked the train times and the trains were on strike, so I had to sprint to the bus stop. So I've already had a 2-hour bus journey this morning, but I'm here now.
Well, we're full of uncertainty at the moment, because you never know who's on strike and so on, but also who is not providing the service. We are going through a very uncertain period of our lives when not everybody is delivering the goods. But let's take a look at what's going on in the world, shall we? We'll take the first 3 or 4 headlines, and then we might well go down to the park, to Grange Park. Grange Park is where we actually take our potter's wheel time. In other words, a little gap when we can take a breath or two and restore our energy to carry on for the rest of the program. We will have Suzanne Mouchot later on from New York. Let us know what's going on there. So for the moment, let's go to the newspapers. Are we ready? Are we ready?
Yeah.
Right. Oh. The Daily Telegraph has got across the top: sloppy England fall to Argentina. Yes, it was the first of the autumn internationals yesterday, with England versus Argentina. And I must say that it's the old story. England showed lots of potential and couldn't realise it. And I suppose really it's this business of finishing. Can you finish a game off? And England consistently cannot. And as a 6 nations for 3 or 4 years now. And we most certainly are not doing very well on the international stage. And yesterday we were beaten at headquarters at Twickenham. So the Daily Telegraph rightly puts it right. Eddie Jones's side suffer a shattering blow in the opening game of the autumn series. Really good players, but somehow they are just not gelling. Anyway, to the serious stuff. The Daily Telegraph. Britain opens the door to climate reparations. What a lovely word that is, reparation. Developments at the COP27 climate summit in Egypt are the focus of several papers. The Daily Telegraph says Britain has opened the door to paying climate change reparations to developing countries by supporting talks on the issue. A number of nations are pushing for compensation from richer countries responsible for most of the world's pollution, it says. Oh dear. Now that is Mad Max occasionally says something very astute. And he was pointing to Friday's headline, which said something like, this is going to be the worst recession suffered by this country in a long time. What was it exactly?
I'll explain it. So, first of all, we don't owe anyone anything. We don't owe anyone reparations, that's for sure. Especially not climate reparations. we're expected to potentially be giving millions, potentially even hundreds of millions, who knows how much at this point. This is from the BBC News. The Bank of England is expected to fall into the longest ever recession. This is the Bank of England saying this. So at a time of extreme uncertainty and possibly one of the worst financial crises we'll ever go through, we need to give more vote. We need third world countries because they have it so rough. We should be thinking about this country first.
Okay, well, now that's I understand, and a lot of people would agree with you, Max, that yes, let's look after ourselves first, and then others afterwards. But surely, global warming is something that is totally international. It is not just us, is it? It's everybody. And if we don't actually, I mean, there were a lot of programs on the BBC News this morning about coral disappearing and so on. If we don't actually do something about the climate, then it's going to swallow up our world.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if I believe that or not. I do believe that the climate is changing. Do I think it's an existential threat? No, I don't. I think people seem to forget about innovation. We're not just going to let everything die and not do anything about it. That's ridiculous. We will be doing something. There will be innovation. There will be new technology that we'll find. And there already is. I could list so many things that there are potential ways to stop climate change at a very inexpensive rate.
But you talk about innovation, and all I see at the moment is a generation that can't get anything right. So where's this innovation going to come from?
So the number one new innovative technology that seems to be working amazingly is graphene production. Have you heard of this?
No.
Well, graphene production is where we can take carbon from the atmosphere and turn it into graphene, which is one of the strongest materials that can be man-made. And this is just from taking carbon from the atmosphere. So we can do that. We can take
How
carbon.
much does it cost?
I'm not sure. Probably,
probably
a lot.
Wait a minute. It's all very well to say we can, but can we afford it? Can we afford to do this?
I don't know how much it costs off the top of my head.
Well, there, right. I mean, that's something
we can't afford to do anything right
before
now.
you actually propose it. Go and find out how much it costs.
No, but we can't afford anything right now. We can't even afford to go to the shop.
So we can't afford this graphene.
So when we can't afford to fix climate change at all, because it's going to cost money no matter what we do. Then
what we do, you see, you have a minority view. And on this television station, we support minority views, or we not necessarily support them, but we give a voice to a minority view. But I would plump for the majority who say that climate change is affecting our way of life, and it's going to, and that we are slowly killing the planet. So you and I immediately start to disagree about where this money should be paid, or whether it should be paid. Anyway, that's where we are different to other television stations. We don't mind disagreeing. I thump him afterwards. Smile at him now and thump him afterwards. Okay, let's go on then to the Daily Mail. It's Red Ed. The UK must pay climate change damages. Well, that's what this reparation is all about. Is third world countries particularly are saying that the wealthier countries, the industrial countries, have caused climate change and damage to the environment in the first place, so they should be paying for it. And that's where these millions come from. I mean, are you saying to these other countries is get lost?
In a way, yes.
You're right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's fair enough. Is one of the things about our Western life is that we are able to have different thoughts and different ideas. Well, in the main, we are, except that these woke people have decided they know better and they want the rest of us to think their way. But other than that, generally speaking, we are able to have differing thoughts. Max has got his differing thoughts. I've got my differing thoughts. Maybe you've got your differing thoughts. Let us know. We'd be very happy to consider them. But we are in an area when it comes to climate change and who should pay for it and who shouldn't, is of widely differing opinions widely differing views, and where it will settle, God only knows. But Sunak has already acknowledged, according to the Telegraph, has acknowledged that we must do something. I don't know. One of the things about Sunak is that we actually watched his first two budgets when he was Chancellor. And he is a great smoke and mirrors man. In other words, he makes promises and says he's going to bring all sorts of money to bear on various things. What it is, it's the same money recycled. And so if he says, "Oh yes, we'll give money to these third world countries in reparation," is he in fact giving money that is already actually been
Reparations for
allocated?
what? Is what I'm confused about. What have we done specifically that we need to pay
Because
reparations for?
we poured fumes into the air and destroyed some of the ozone layer and so on and so forth, and some of the evils that the world is befalling from climate change.
Well, I think we should leave climate change to be solved up to the government because they solve everything correctly 100% of the time.
Yes, Max.
Yes. I don't think. I mean, the government are very effective and never mess anything up big time. I can't think of one time they've messed anything up. Can you?
No, Max, no. But I actually don't think that we necessarily should just simply wash our hands and say leave things to the government. We have to leave an awful lot to the government just because of this of our system. But by the same token, we can't actually, as citizens, not be involved one way or another. For instance, you this morning have raised something. You have given your point of view. You got involved.
Or some sort of private innovation, because the government aren't going to fix this.
Well, whether the government will fix it or not, it's the only way that we have in our system is to give vent to your views in the hope that what will happen. I mean, what does happen is that if enough people agree with you, it starts a wave of sentiment. It starts a wave of call for action, and that's when governments do. I mean, I've always thought it as a weakness, but it's also a strength. Is that our government reacts to the electorate simply because they want to be in power next time around, and so they do pay attention to the voter, and not always to the good, but nonetheless they do. So the mere fact that you have raised something, and I assume that you're not the only one that thinks this, that there is a body of feeling that we shouldn't be getting sucked into this thing, is that essentially that the government will do something about it or won't do something about it or will stick their heels in or whatever. But the important thing is to let your views be known. Right, okay, the Guardian revealed the UK and the US failing to pay their fair share of $100 billion climate fund. Well, now this goes back to Kyoto and what was agreed between the civilized nations, quote, civilized nations, developed nations, if you like, and that there was an agreement made that each nation would pay towards the cost of putting the climate right, or at least addressing climate change, and they haven't. What they said was, yes, yes, we'll do it, and many of them haven't, including the UK and the US. And Max might well say, thank God for that. But others will say, hey, come on, that's what you promised. Why aren't you delivering? So the Guardian is revealing the fact that it hasn't been paid. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what it's revealing. Let's see. It reports analysis suggesting that the US and the UK are failing in their commitment to provide their fair share of funding to curb climate change in poorer countries, to the tune of billions of pounds. Well, this is going to be a big row. You can tell it's going to be a big row, and it's been raised in where are they meeting? Egypt, aren't they? Yes, at the convention. The FT, the US hatches a plan for companies to pay for the switch from fossil fuel energy. That sounds like one for you on Wednesday, doesn't it? And one for Stuart.
Yeah, it's a shame because yesterday I actually was looking at the Financial Times headline. They had an interesting headline that I would have liked to talk about. I'll save that for Stuart because it's the Financial Times and it's his.
Right. Okay. Well, give you some good stuff to talk about on Wednesday. But what the FT is saying today is the US wants to encourage the world's largest companies to help developing countries out of their use of fossil fuels through a new carbon credits scheme. And the plans will be unveiled at COP27. Let's see, it's taking place this week, so that should be revealed.
Evil. That's evil.
What's evil?
Carbon credit scheme.
Why is it evil?
Because it's, gosh, there's going to be a lot to go into right away. This is going to be a brilliant story for me and Liza to go through. But
no. Hang on. You and Liza can go through it.
Yeah,
and you're very welcome to do so, but you've also got to listen to the other point of view. You can't say, we're not going to talk about that, we're going to talk about this. Come on. You just said that it was too difficult for you to explain. Come on, tell me. Give me 2 lines.
Oh my goodness, Keith. Let me explain then.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So could you read? We'll go through it again. Could you read that again, just so?
The Financial Times says the US wants to encourage the world's largest companies to help developing countries their use of fossil fuels to a new credit scheme. The plans will be unveiled at COP27, says the paper.
So how it starts off is these carbon credits. It's like the social credit system. The social credit system is based on how good of a person you are. This is the Chinese social credit system that they use, but we're using it for carbon. At the moment, it's just going to be for big for companies. How many vehicles does your company own? How many factories does your company own? How many employees? How often do they drive? Blah blah blah. All sorts of things of how much carbon per ton each company emits.
Okay, now, just before you go any further, where does it say that?
What do you mean?
Well, you just outlined what this social credit thing would mean. What I'm saying is, all I see is a little headline saying it's going to be proposed.
Yeah, I'm
so where I'm saying the way that you just described it, where do you see all that?
That is what that means. That I'm trying to explain what that actually means.
Why? I mean, if that's what it means, why does it mean it? Where's the example?
What do you mean? That's what they are trying to implement.
Yeah. You can't say they are trying to do it unless you can give me an example of how they're doing it or where they're doing it.
That is exactly. But I think you've misunderstood what I said.
Well, be clear.
I was trying to be clear as I could, but the carbon credit system,
yes,
is what I just explained.
Right.
It's based on how.
Okay, where is this carbon credit system in place at the moment? You say that's what it is. Where is it?
Well, first of all, it's in China at the moment.
Right, in China.
They're saying,
okay,
as it says there, the US is now trying to get smaller companies to implement that, small and large companies to implement that in the US and European countries.
Well, I mean, it is trying to implement it if that's what it means. You're saying that this is a system in China, and that the US would want to use a similar system. Is that right?
Yes, that's what the
okay,
Times
all right,
says.
Right. Now you're being clear, and that makes sense. But what I was trying to get at is, what does you explained what carbon credit system meant, but when I asked you where it was in place, it took you a little while to get around to China, because it has to be in place somewhere, otherwise you wouldn't know about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Good stuff. Let's go on to the Times. Billions more spent in UK will count as foreign aid. Right now, this one looks to me as if it's a bit complicated. The Times says the government is in line to spend almost half of the foreign aid budget in Britain as it grapples with the arrival of migrants in small boats and the Ukraine crisis. Now, that's really what you were calling for, wasn't it? That some of our budget should be paid at home, spent at home and not abroad.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would say that makes some sense, because there is no question now that after some of our politicians said that the Home Secretary, whose name has escaped me for a moment. Tell me, Braverman.
Zoella Braverman.
Yeah, has said, look, this immigration thing is in crisis, and everybody said, tut tut, you mustn't say that. Blah, 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 blah. I think it is widely accepted now that it's in crisis.
No, she didn't call it a crisis. She called it an invasion. That's what people are upset about.
All right, but I mean, it's a crisis. Yeah. So she or what's being suggested by Sunak, is it, or it just says the government? It doesn't say Sunak particularly. It says the government is in line to spend money at home, particularly because of the immigration crisis or invasion or whatever word you want to use. Now, that's more or less what you were saying that you prefer, is some of the money that's generated here should be spent at home in looking after various evils and problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. So is what the government is suggesting, as relayed in the Times, is one of the things that you would approve of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. The Sun. Now we get away from climate change and finance and so on. Is Rishi raps celeb Hancock? Matt is letting down the voters, says the Prime Minister, the reason being is, for those of you who haven't been following it, he's about to appear on I'm a Celebrity reality TV show. Oh, Jesus, I'd be ashamed to get involved in that at all. But it does seem the so-called celebrities can't. They're so attracted to it, they all rush towards it. The Prime Minister tells the Sun he was very disappointed by the former Tory Health Secretary's move to appear in that show. What's your view?
The same as that. It's just embarrassing.
Okay, Matt, you haven't got Max's support. I would stay out of it in that case. The Daily Star. Coco's pants on fire. Who dares whines about their SAS TV deal to line pockets on I'm a Celebrity? The Star he's taking aim at Matt Hancock, reporting claims that he had his contract on another reality TV show, Celebrity SAS, changed so he could appear in the I'm a Celebrity jungle and secure a 400,000 fee. 400,000 fee. $500,000 fee. Wow.
That's more than he would make in a year. As health secretary,
yeah,
that's more than he made in a year.
Absolutely. Even as health secretary, he wouldn't have made much more than about 120,000, would he?
No, I think it was about 200.
Was it? Oh, right, okay. Mind you, they got all the perks.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. So the Daily Express, which is traditionally a government-supporting newspaper, keeping triple lock is a matter of Tory principle. It has returned to the fact that the suggestion from Hunt and Sunak in the budget is that the triple lock should be dropped in old age pensioners. This was a Tory manifesto pledge, and they are being warned. The two of them are being warned. If they do that, they're going to lose the grey vote. And since that is one of their mainstays, and they actually hammer things down very tight, then it really is a concern for the Conservative Party, because they may well already stand a chance of being tipped out next time, and they are going to increase the chances if they do the triple lock. So that's what the Express is warning and saying. The biggest ever nurses' strike would hit A&E patients. I haven't followed this terribly closely, Max. Have you, about the nurses' strike?
Even though my mum is a nurse, no, I haven't. I probably should be following it a bit closely.
Yeah.
I thought it was illegal for nurses and doctors and police to strike, and anyone who's an essential worker, fire department, all those people.
Yeah, I've always thought that there are some restrictions on their striking.
Maybe it's only doctors or GPs, maybe nurses can strike.
Or maybe it's only limited things that they can't strike from. I think actually that's one thing we should have paid attention to, and we haven't. But we can read up on it this week and find out what's going on. It says the newspaper turns its attention to the potential nurses' strike, with planned action ahead of Christmas, said to make it the biggest in the occupation's history. The paper reports that around 300,000 nurses are thought to have voted in favour of industrial action, which will trigger the postponement of non-urgent operations and extend the waits for accident and emergency. I don't understand that accident and emergency. Surely accident and emergency is where you need immediate attention.
Yeah, any patient. That's. I don't understand. Usually that would be the place where no one can strike, but it seems not. I don't know. It's strange. I'll have to do some more research on it and go to a break.
I think we should. Right, the Metro, Bonfire Night of Mayhem. It's the only paper that has any comment about anything going wrong on Bonfire Night, but apparently in Halifax, a 17-year-old boy was killed by a rocket being let off in the street, and it came and hit him, and I guess that killed him. But it said they were amidst disturbances with youth setting off fireworks as either a demonstration or to fight or whatever. The Mirror. Now this is one. And I'm going to take just a little moment or two over this, because this is a local story, even though it's taking place in Australia. And it's in the Mirror, the Daily Mirror. They have a picture of an Aussie old age pensioner, which is the exact match to a photograph of Lord Lucan. And it's the shock claim of a top facial recognition scientist who ID'd the Skripal poisoners.
I've never heard of this story. What is this?
Well, you don't know about Lord Lucan?
Not. I've never heard the name. I've heard the name, but I don't.
Well, it happened in your backyard. It happened in Oakfield.
Okay.
It didn't really. Essentially, and most people probably have forgotten Lord Lucan, but Lord Lucky Lucan was a gambler and very much a high life chap around London. Mixed up with the Aspinalls and helped found a gambling club, drove an Aston Martin, and he married a very demure lady and gave them two children. Gave her two children. He was separated from his wife, and one night in the basement of their house in London, her nanny was beaten to death, and it was assumed that he had Lucan, in a fight for custody of his children, had beaten the nanny to death by mistake. That in fact he thought it was his wife. He fled south and came to Uckfield, where he had friends. That's where the story diverges. It is said that there he was killed by mafia figures, and then thrown to Aspinall's lions in his private zoo. Others say that he drove south and parked in New Haven and caught the ferry, but never got off it, and that he was drowned. But one thing is for sure, he was never found again. Now, this was in the 1970s.
1974.
Sorry?
1974.
1974.
Yeah, probably why I don't remember the story then.
Yeah, but it was a very big story at the time, and it's carried on, because it wasn't until 2016 that he was declared officially dead, so that things could be done with his estate. And there was a whole village in Ireland that he owned, and they didn't know where they stood, because the village was in limbo. So there were a lot of real problems. But Lucky Lucan, as he was known, and why he was known as Lucky Lucan, I have no idea, because he was a loser at cards, a loser at gambling, and a loser with his wife. So he had a pretty rough background. Right, Max. We've done enough talking, I think, and enough shouting and enough debating. It's been very good fun. But I think it's time we went to the park, don't you?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Here we go.
Okay. All right, here we go. Then we'll take a look at a few other things. But what I've done is back and got the local breaking news to see if there's any stuff that is worthwhile telling you about. And there's a story here that a man has been kidnapped. He's violently kidnapped, and it's a Hove man, and he was assaulted and forced into a vehicle in Whitehall. And he's a 43-year-old man. He was taken to hospital yesterday after reportedly being assaulted and forced into a vehicle, and around 3:45 p.m. Oh, in the afternoon. So he was out in the open. And the victim was taken to the hospital, but his injury was not life-threatening. And let's see, a man has been arrested on suspicion of kidnap and committing grievous bodily harm and remains in custody. So more to come on that one. Sussex's best fish and chip shops. Oh well, we can leave that. Sussex's Hellby and Christmas Lights Trail, the brand new route this year. We can leave that. It looks as if there's not a great deal more. Roads closed as flooding hit Sussex. Yeah, we had severe flooding over the weekend. How about your village?
My village never gets flooded because Cookfield. I don't live in Cookfield. It's not my back garden, but Cookfield. Cookfield is entirely on the top of a hill. Cookfield is, if you're if you're coming out of Cookfield, it's almost entirely downhill. So it's we're
So
quite
you were
lucky.
saved from it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
especially where I live, right on the tallest point in Cookfield, will never be flooded. Ever.
Right. The county is under a yellow weather warning. It was over the weekend, and it continues to be so because although it is not steady rain today, when Max came to work, he got wet. When I came to work, I got wet. And just a few minutes ago, because it looks as if it's eased off a bit, he pointed outside and said, "Look at the rain lashing down." So we are in for a wet time, I think. The forecast for today is only to go about 13 degrees, quite cool, quite chilly, a little bit of a breeze, and there was certainly this morning because I had to hang on my hat again, and sort of sporadic rain. So not very pleasant outside, and be careful. Um, let's see. The areas most hard hit in the county were Uckfield, Buxted, and Ifield, which were all put under red flood warnings. And with the aftermath of flooding from a few days ago still being dealt with across Sussex, yesterday's yellow weather warning has sparked cause for concern. It's likely more roads will flood today, and road users are urged to be careful when travelling. So there you are. Be careful.
All right. Well, would you like to pick up a clip? One of the longer ones.
Yes, just one more headline. 10 fire engines battle ablaze in Haywards Heath.
What? I missed that.
The It's at the former care home on Bolner Farm Lane near Haywards Heath. A huge fire at a former care home building near Haywards Heath prompted, no, it said promoted a huge emergency service response last night. Is that last night or is it the night before? 10 fire engines were at the scene on Bolnor Farm Lane. West Sussex Fire and Rescue Service said it was called just after 7 p.m. on Saturday. Oh, so it was the night before last, November the 5th, to reports of a fire. People in the area were advised to keep windows closed due to heavy smoke from the incident. Okay, right, Max. I think that what we should do now is just to play just a little bit of our bonfire clip there, so that we can just remind people of what happened here on Saturday night.
This is tomorrow folder.
It's Monday. Try Monday.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, here we go. All right, we'll play this.
Play part of it. It's a bit long, but certainly just to show people what was happening here in. Well, a great night. Lots and lots of light, fireworks, bonfires, and joyous crowds in the street. And I don't know what the official figure is, but certainly it must have been approaching 50 to 60,000 people here. They were 10 deep in parts along the route, and the town was absolutely flooded. And we stayed with it until about 1:30 in the morning, Max.
I left at 1:30.
Yeah, when we watched the prayers from Commercial Square, which take place right outside the White Hart Hotel, which is the hotel we're in at the moment and broadcasting from. We showed them jumping the fire and doing all sorts of things that they. All sorts of things that they do in a post parade mode. They say prayers. They encircle around a small bonfire, and then they jump over it and make sure that they end with. I think it's the national anthem, wasn't it? Yes.
God Save the King.
God Save the King.
Which
Yes.
is weird.
Yes.
To sing now.
One thing. Well, of course, the whole thing about bonfires is surrounding this patriotic um, fervour, and as well as we won't be druv. In other words, the what should we say? The preservation of a way of life in Lewis. So there we are. That was that. Where do you want to go now, Max?
We could go to Tall Tales Flying.
Well, let's go to Tall Tales Flying.
All right.
Yes. I'm a very accomplished flyer now, but way back in the 60s, when commercial jets still were being tested on commercial flights, then getting on board an aircraft was something of a trauma. We sat there hoping like hell that the pilot knew what he was doing, and that he would get us down at the other end. And of course the pilots didn't know what they were doing, and they did get us down at the other end. But then again, air crashes became front page news, and it seemed always there was a crash just before I was supposed. I said, they're not getting me into that. Guess who they came knocking on the door to? Hayes, you go out, you do the traffic reports. Well, I had no choice. I couldn't say no. I had to do it. So indeed, I did. And away I went each morning, getting up at about 4:30, driving out to the airport and getting there about 5 o'clock. Marching over to the far side of the airfield and getting into a Cessna 172, taking off, soaring above the city and passing on information about what was happening in the traffic. Wow. I enjoyed it so much, in fact, that I fell asleep one morning. I dozed, and the pilot said, "I think your station is calling you." And I heard the magic words, and now we're going up above the traffic to see what was happening on the roads. So I opened my eyes, looked down, and immediately began to give a report. And the report was that there was a big jam of buses near the Oak Street Bridge, which went over the Fraser River. Wow! what a report. And then as we turned the aircraft and flew away, I realized I've been looking down at where the buses congregated before they set out on their morning routes. It's nothing like a great report. The pilot turned to me and he said, "You know, you've got this job licked. It's a bit boring, isn't it?" And I said, "Well, yeah, it is really. No, I mean, not much to say other than what's going on in the traffic. I try to brighten it up a little bit with a little quip here and there, but right, tomorrow morning," he said, "you get in the left-hand seat and I'll teach you to fly." And he did. And I was fortunate to have almost a year and a half of a flying experience. I logged 400 hours on the Cessna. I logged a couple of hours on a twin-engine aircraft and a couple of hours on other aircraft. I was the luckiest man in the world. and he put me into some pretty awful conditions. And we would fly up. I would give a report, and then we would do some what's known touch and goes. In other words, you land, you circle, you land, you circle, just to get some practice in. And we did. And one morning, a gust of wind took it, and I thought that the wing was going to be ripped off. Well, he grabbed the stick and managed to get us out of trouble. But it just shows the sort of thing that if you're going to be a professional pilot, that you have to put up with. So confident did we become on flying around together that he would set little tests, and he would say, there are clouds on the North Shore over the mountains. Why don't we go over and see if we can break the wings of this aircraft? Yes, let's do that. And we would deliberately fly into this mucky weather and get churned around and watch the wings, knowing full well that they wouldn't fall off. But daring. And it did turn out to be a lot of fun. I have to say, it turned out to be a lot of fun. A couple of other incidents. I used to take VIPs up in the afternoon and say, okay, here are some pollution issues and so on and so forth. And one afternoon we got my good friend, but also a colleague, Mrs. Grace McCarthy, who was the Deputy Prime Minister at the time. And we got out onto the runway and away we went. And a jet had taken off just before us, and it was a fairly still evening. So you can't see them, but the whirls of air caused by the jet's wings are still there. And sure enough, we got 3 or 4 feet from the ground, and away it went. We damn near lost the cabinet minister. But the Deputy Prime Minister. Once again, he came to the rescue, flipped it over, and we managed to save the day. The other The plane travels forward at about 100 miles or so an hour. Actually, it's a little over 72 miles for the takeoff speed. And he said that the wind this morning is particularly strong. So he put the nose of the aircraft into the strong wind, and we watched the bridge below. And although we were keeping airspeed, the plane started to travel backwards. So here we were in reverse, in a plane, in the sky, watching the bridge recede while the plane powered forward at the correct speed and the wind pushed us back. And that's the sort of nonsense that we would get up to. And there are lots of other stories I can tell you about my flying experience. But perhaps this last one will bring something of a smile to your lips. I was trying very hard to impress who later became my wife, my girlfriend at the time, Valerie, and I said, would you like to come flying, dear, and come out with me this afternoon, and we could go and we'll go and do some traffic reports, but we'll also take a look at the Vancouver from the air. How lovely. Yes, she said, that'd be super. Anyway, we got settled into the plane, I taxied out, checked with the tower, yes, we were all okay, we were about to take off, there's nothing in our way, rolled it out onto the runway and roared down the runway ready to take off, and the tower came on and said, MLA, which is the call letters of the aircraft, you're going down the runway the wrong way. Oh my goodness me. We had to screech to a halt and take off the right way. She still married me. Well, that's my flying experience. I suppose I should fly off now. Till the next story, the next tall tale. Toodle-pip. There we go. As my flying experiences some years ago, but nonetheless, I often wonder if I climb back in the left-hand seat of Cessna 172, whether I could get the damn thing off the ground and back again, down again, and keep it in the air. It is a skill. I never thought that I would ever make a natural pilot, and that's why I never pursued flying as either a hobby or a career. Um, I was good enough to make the thing fly. I was good enough to get it off the ground and get it back onto the ground, but I was never ever terribly good at sort of an unusual circumstances. A gust of wind, for instance, I never reacted fast enough. Thank God I'd got a commercial pilot with me for most of the time. Right, okay. Now, one thing that I think that I would like us to do is it is the next big event, if you like, is on the 11th of November. It's the 7th today, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, that's Friday, I believe, is Remembrance Day. And it is bit by bit one of those things that is slipping from our consciousness because people under 30 are not really that familiar with war and war circumstances. As I said, if this war in the Ukraine goes on for much longer and gets any more vicious, it may be that they will be brought up with a hell of a shock and a hell of a halt. But in the meantime, we do try hard to celebrate the all those who died of every war since the First World War. Let's just, I think, Max, if you can just find it, we've got a little thing that we will play each day this week, just to remind you about what's coming up on Friday.
All right.
Okay. Okay, Remembrance Day. I have to say that it is peculiar to me, undoubtedly. But one of the highlights of that weekend is that it is Remembrance Day on November the 11th is followed up by a church service right across the country 2 days later. So in this year it'll be the 11th, 12th, 13th. On Sunday the 13th, we have a Remembrance Sunday and we have a service in church. And one of the things that I am privileged to do is to read the names of those locally who fell during the Great War. And it is a very solemn occasion, and it's a very solemn feeling in doing it. So I am lucky in as much as I get involved in this particular ceremony, and I am very pleased that I am involved. because it is, to me, very key. Now, I do recognize that a lot of young people just see it as a memory. And in fact, I understand that because I can remember once my grandmother saying to me, "Oh, yes," she said, "we collected books at school during the war." And I said, "Nan, the that's silly. You would have been, almost married in the Second World War. In fact, she was, or no, shortly after, anyway. And my grandfather was in the Second World War, in the First World War, and she said, "Oh, no, 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 I mean the Boer War," and it it hadn't occurred to me that there was a war before the First World War, or that anybody alive remembered it. And it's much the same. Is young people do not remember either of the First or the Second World War, so therefore it's not real. But their sacrifice was real, and the reasons for it were real, and the authoritarian regime of Hitler, and for that matter of Hindenburg, I think it was, of the Germans, was a real threat to our freedom in this country, particularly the Second World War. And so we should be grateful that that people did give their lives in those two wars to keep us free. So it's on the Sunday that the church service takes place. It's on the 11th that we actually, in the streets, people stop in the streets and observe a 2 minute society, 2 minute silence. Max, I mean, you're very young. You don't even remember any war, probably.
No,
How do you feel about it? Remote, or do you understand it, or how do you feel?
I don't know. I've never been through one. I've well,
How do
actually
you
this
feel about the
Ukraine
last
war.
wars, though?
What do you mean? Well, I just want to say this quickly. This is the first the Ukraine and Russia war. This is the first time in my lifetime that there has been war in Europe. First time,
Right.
and I'm sure there's been quite a few in yours. How many would you say has been in your lifetime?
Well, I've had a war in Europe, but wars in which we've been involved is several. I mean, there was the Second World War when I was a little boy, and then there was the Korean War, which was not too long afterwards, and then there was well, we weren't involved in the Vietnam War in a straight way, but nonetheless there was some involvement. Then we had Suez, the Suez Crisis, when we invaded Egypt and the Suez Canal.
And
So
the
there have
Falklands.
been several, and
The Falklands, the
the
Troubles.
Falklands War, of course, yes, indeed.
Was the Troubles or an actual? Was it an? Because
Wasn't
it's always described as war, but was it actually a war?
no, the terrorists call it a war, and in fact, whenever they described and put a death announcement to the papers, they would say, fall in action, as if it was.
Well,
But actually, I mean, it was terrorist activities, and the army was sent in to try and resolve it because it was far beyond the capability of the police to do so. The police being a civilian force. So, well, perhaps we should call it a war. Is of course the term that is used widely is the Troubles, which is what it was called in Northern Ireland. So most people say the Troubles, and they know exactly what you're talking about. It's a tough one. Yes, I mean, I've been involved in a lot of wars, and you have been only involved in one.
well, I've never been involved in any, but this is the first one that's taken place.
It's taken place, yeah. I mean, what do you and your generation feel about this war?
This current war in
Yeah.
Ukraine. Well, most people have the Ukrainian flags in their Twitter bios, or as Ukrainian flag stickers on their cars or laptops, whatever it is. Most people, I mean, I don't have anything interesting to say about it, really. I don't have any novel opinions. It's just Russia bad. That's about it, really.
All right, then let's put it this way. Supposing suddenly it was announced that we were going to send troops into Ukraine to fight on behalf of the side of the Ukrainians or NATO. How would you feel there?
I personally, this isn't reflective of everyone my age, but personally, I would not support that whatsoever. I don't think we should be getting involved in foreign wars. Again, like I said earlier, with our country first, I think that applies to war as well. When we're in Afghanistan, that's ridiculous. Why are we there? We're guarding oil or something. It's never anything. This one might be more important than the other ones that have happened in my lifetime of wars that UK, like Britain, have had soldiers overseas in. This one seems more serious than the rest, but I don't support soldiers going over to Ukraine. And if there was a draft, I would absolutely be a draft dodger. There's no way I will ever go to fight for Ukraine or Russia.
Well, supposing that you actually found that we were fighting against Russia, because actually Putin has threatened to attack Britain. How would you feel then?
I suppose I would feel differently if he actually did something. But again, I don't think anything's going to happen. I mean, we had the Salisbury incident a couple years ago, but that wasn't during a time of war, so that was a bit different.
Well, that was assassination, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Between you and I, those are the ones that we know about. Assassinations of those sort take place all the time, and nobody ever said anything. But I mean, how would you feel if Russia did attack and you were called to arms?
Still wouldn't fight.
You still wouldn't?
No.
You'd be a conscientious objector.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like this country, but I'm not gonna fight for England in a war. I'm absolutely opposed to war 100%.
Right. Okay. That's fair enough. It's very straight, and a lot of people in the Second World War who felt the same way. Let's face it, one of the things that was significant about Canada during the Vietnamese War was that it was full of American draft dodgers who came north to go over the border so that they wouldn't be actually called up, because of course Americans were conscripted during the Vietnamese War. You didn't have a say. Out you went. To what may have turned out to be, and you may be right in this, a spurious war. But there we are. Okay, now let's.
Yeah, well, at least with Afghanistan, it was a choice. You chose to join the army. It's a bit different when it's a draft.
Yes, it is, and I mean drafts only take place in a time of extreme stress. I mean, the Russians, of course, have started to draft people into their armed forces, and it isn't going down very well. But the reason they are is that they've lost so many men from their regular armed forces that they've got to keep up the manpower.
I think both Ukraine and Russia are doing the draft right now.
Yes.
Well, they have been for a while, actually.
Okie dokie. Let's take a look at a program or two. One program. It is now 9:34. I think one program that we might play is that there is a program here with. We can have a choice between another wine tasting, or we could have autism. I'm a bit loath to get into autism because it's quite a long one. It's a 22-minute. Shall we play wine and take a look at this? We played last week Fergus Woods, who is our wine expert, or was. Dear old Fergus has gone off to join the Marines. In fact, he's gone off to be a soldier. But he did, along with Melissa White, white wine. And I think this one is with Annie Verrill and red wine. And we call this liquid poetry. So here you go.
All right.
Hello and good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Here we are with the second episode, which is all about wine tasting for all the people out there who are wine connoisseurs or just want to know a little bit more about the wines themselves. So we have with us Mr. Fergus Wood, who will introduce himself and tell you all about his company. Hello, Fergus.
How you doing?
Please tell us more about yourself. I'm well, and once we get through all these wines, we'll be even better, probably. How are you?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It'll be a great way. We're recording this at lunchtime, so hopefully it should get us into the afternoon quite nicely. Yes.
Just Thursday, the right time for it.
Exactly. Thursday's the new Friday as well, so at least we're starting early. It's good.
Oh, I like that. That's great.
So yes, I'm Fergus Wood. I'm the founder of Camino del Vino, as you can tell in the background. I'm a new startup. We're about to launch a new startup, online wine startup, where you can find us at www.caminodelvino.co.uk.
I think it's very clever of you to have started this company, because I myself, I don't know much about wine. I know there are 3 different colors.
Yeah. There's 3 main colours, but there's orange wines as well. But we'll go with that.
There we go.
Let's keep it simple to start with.
Shall we leave that for later? Yeah. Let's have red and white later on. For now. Okay, great. So last time you were about to start talking about this beauty here.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Go with a pearl earring, yes.
Which is a Merlot.
Correct.
Lovely, here it is. And it's Chilean, is it?
It is Chilean, yes, correct, yeah.
Great.
So it went by a different name, the portrait, or the painting, sorry.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is, or don't really know.
No, that's fine.
It's now just known as the girl with the pearl earring because it is so iconic and so distinct.
Indeed.
But this particular Merlot is also great for the region. It just thrives in the Central Valley. And the Central Valley it's sort of wedged in between the Andes on the east coast, and then it's got small sort of low-lying mountains on the west side. So it really tucks in below there. And Chilean climate is very Mediterranean. It's very warm and sunny. But then sort of it gets that through the day. But then when the cool climate from the top of the Andes comes down, when it comes into the night, it starts to cool all the vineyards down. So it helps mellow out sort of the growing conditions, basically. So it doesn't go ahead of itself, really. It doesn't wear itself out through the growing season, so it sort of cools itself down. It doesn't need to start photosynthesizing. And yeah, it basically ends up with a lovely, elegant wine at the end of the day, and which we hopefully crack on to now.
I love the way you told that story. You should be a teacher. It's like a nice piece of geography and a little bit of history, and it's the story behind it. Well done. Can I open the bottle now?
Yeah, should we do it? Yeah. Let's see, why not? I left mine annoyingly in my storeroom outside, so it's a little bit cool, but I think yours should be at a good temperature.
Yes.
Because you don't want it. Red wines, particularly, you want them to be like 16 to 18 degrees, sort of like if you have them at room temperature, you should be fine. Red wine's a little bit chilled at the moment, but you should just be fine. You should still get the same flavors, which is good. So
okay, right. Let's open that up now. Before anyone judges out there, this is what we decided on having the red in, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm not a very big wine connoisseur, I just grabbed whatever glass I had at home. I just wanted to make sure it's not a pint glass.
No. So it's very good. So if you hold it up to the camera, you can see that in a bulb shape.
Yeah.
Like that. Mm-hmm. That's very good for wines in general because it helps collect all the aromas and flavors rather than let them go. So when you do swirl it around and when we go and sniff the wine, you can actually smell all the flavors that are in there. can. So it just helps those sort of pinched in walls help the flavors and aromas bounce off and keep inside. So, and where you want to fill it is just below the sort of the widest part of the bulb.
Here?
You just want it, about there. Just fill it out,
Just below the widest part. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to fill it at as widest part. You just want to fill it slightly below, especially for tasting, because I'd say that you don't want to. Later on after the recording, you can fill it right back up.
No.
Just for tasting, you want to let all the aromas just tuck in. Whereas if you filled it a little bit higher, they may just sort of go out.
Also, let me just ask about the top. Now, of course, many people believe that if it's not a corkscrew, then it's no good. If it's just a screw on, what's the truth behind this?
So, there is a slight bit of truth in that. Yeah, a lot of one of my friends as well. He's very, especially for like these sort of wines, South American wines that do have a corkscrew. He just doesn't. He doesn't believe that good red wines should not be in a corkscrew. It's they should have a cork in it basically. Just because it's like, what the cork does essentially, it just imparts a different level of flavor onto the wine that maybe the winemaker wants to do. But it's just, again, it could be a cost factor, or it very much depending on what the winemaker wants to do. But I guess it is sort of genuinely true that a lot of the cheaper wines do have screw caps, because it does cost a little bit more to put corks in, redesign the bottle and all that sort of stuff. But there are still very good examples of wines which have corks, twisty caps, screw caps on the top. And so again, it's just like, it's one of those really. You can just take it as you will. Hopefully you'll like this one, and so, which is a good example of it being a good wine and needing a screw cap. But yeah, it's just it imparts a different flavor onto the wine basically.
Good. Well, thank you. You demystified that.
You're testing me today.
I told you I'm a novice, so whatever pops in my mind, I shall ask. I don't know if it's silly or not. But...
I like it.
Very good. So now to the important part.
The important.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. That's perfect. Yeah, that's great. I got
Lovely.
that. So yeah, what you
swirl.
You just want to give it a quick swirl. You should be able to, if you just gently put your nose over it. I can sort of, you can smell it already. You should be able to smell like fruit flavors already.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so they're quite typically, especially for this Merlot, they're typically red fruit flavors, so such as strawberries.
I was going to ask, is there strawberry in there somewhere?
Exactly, yeah. So that's very typical of a good Merlot, and sort of representing what the grape can offer, basically. And so yeah, give it a big swirl, and then if you want to dig deeper, put your nose in it, and you can try and pick up, especially if you do go a little bit deeper, some sort of floral notes as well that maybe the wine should have as well that could be present in this. You can smell it. I can definitely.
Oh dear. No.
What are you going?
Floral. What type?
But if not, no worries. If your nose may not be particularly as attuned as mine, but it's something you may get to develop on later on.
All right.
Yeah. You may as well be able to pick up maybe a slight bit of bell pepper sort of flavor, like green pepper.
Herbaceous.
Yeah, herbaceous. Yeah.
Interesting. You see, I would never have associated green bell pepper with wine.
There we go. Yeah.
It's healthy. It's full of fruit and vegetables. We need more of this.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And then
very good.
So we passed the first test. We've done the smelling. So these sort of flavors as well that you can pick up in the aromas essentially of the wine. You should be able to taste as well when we start to sip the wine as well. So they should be basically, whatever you pick up in your nose should be fairly representative of what you pick up on the mouth as well. But sometimes you may be able to find a couple more flavors that are, for instance, you could not smell on the nose that you could then pick on the tongue.
Right.
That's just it's dependent on the wine basically, and it's very it's just whatever. Taste is very personal after all. So what you can taste and what you can't taste is entirely up to the person doing it basically. So yeah, we should wait and see.
So turn out I am very rubbish at this, but let's give it a go.
what you want to try and do is when you sip it, you want to try and let the mouth the wine sort of cover the inside of your mouth. So try and swish it around as if you're using mouthwash essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get a real, especially for red wines, because they contain tannins. You get this sort of general feel and sort of slight covering, but it's a really pleasant covering of your mouth, and it's a slight drying texture to it as well, which is very representative of red wines. And that's what a lot of people do sort of like, is that sort of slight drying sensation, which helps sort of, it's just nice, really. I don't really know how to explain.
You can tell a very good story. Right. Let's see. That's very nice.
Good.
Don't ask me about fruit. I already told you the most important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. As soon as if you pick it up in the nose, just write it down whenever you're tasting. If you're doing a tasting thing, the same again. I've got the exact same one. But yeah, can you sort of feel on your tongue a slight dryness? Yeah, that's what tannins are basically. There's slight dryness, and this particular Merlot as well, given the region that it grows in and the climate, they're quite like medium. They're not too in your face. That some wines we may explore later down in the line, they're not too like really boom, but they're not too sort of soft. It's a nice middle ground. It's a nice like midweek wine, I'd say. You just get on with it.
It's very easy to drink.
Yeah. It's a good conversation wine, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Talking about the label, and then you have a sip, and then you're like, they matched it beautifully, I think.
Very good. So would you say that different red wines contain more or less tannin, or is the amount of tannin the same? It's not, is it?
Well, in red wine making, for instance, the tannins particularly come from the skins, and maybe sometimes the stems especially in the classic vineyards that they use. They sometimes put the stems in with the fermentation process, but the skins contain most of the tannins, and this is what is distinguished between red wine making and white wine making, is that red wine fermentation process contains all the skins in it with the wines, with the grapes, so all the grapes, whereas in the other one, they crush and then press the white wine, so that it's just the juices that are fermented.
So there's no skin?
So there's no skin at all, yeah. So that's why tannins, you will never feel tannins in white wine.
White wine.
Yeah, it's only applicable to red wine. Yeah.
I like this.
Yes.
Yes, I don't think I like the red wines that contain too much tannin, because when I taste that dryness a bit too much, I can never explain it. It seems, I don't know what's the word for it. What's the best word? Is it too dry then, or too something? But I can never explain. But whenever I taste, yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, it's quite intense, isn't it? Especially when you do get a big bombshell in your face, in your mouth, of a big tannin grape. It's not for everybody's liking, definitely. But I think definitely this one is a lovely sort of evening. Pop it on
by the fire
party. Now they're in, maybe outside of lockdown periods with other people, friends and stuff like that. You can have a couple of bottles of these on a Friday or Saturday night and let everything go. Yeah.
Even for an everyday wine with some food, or in the evenings, I would definitely recommend. It's very, very nice.
Nice.
Right, just a little bit more and then I'll put it away. Very nice. I feel like I want to eat it.
Good. Can you feel as well? I noticed on my last gulp as well, like my tongue being sort of quite fresh in itself. There's like a minty flavour. That's quite indicative as well of the sort of region and Merlot. It's quite like a lovely little, just fresh minty eucalyptus sort of feel as well, which again would be the herbaceous sort of side coming into it.
The green peppers, right?
The green peppers, the same sort of category, yeah.
Right, so girl with the pearl earring, I agree. It's very, very good. Very tasty. Thank you very much. I hope one day you will return with another arty wine.
I do. I have another one. I have a Sauvignon Blanc, which we could do, also from Chile as well. So this would be a great opportunity to go. Okay, we've done the reds. Now we can move on to the white side of Chile, and especially Sauvignon Blanc, one of Chile's best white wine, great varieties that it produces as well. So.
Thank you very much, Fergus. This was very, very nice. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I shall try it later again, just in case. See if I can recognize the bell peppers later on.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you very much. We shall be back next time. Thank you. Thank you to the viewers, and thank you to lovely Mr. Wood.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so as you can see, we have a little bit of a different setup now. Me and Keith are on separate cameras. He's still next to me. If I reach my hand across far enough, he's there. But we're trying out something new to see how this works. I think it's all right. What do you think?
Right. Okay. Here we are back again, and let's hope that this works, because it gives us a bit more arm room. And actually, in the House of Commons, they have something called a sword line. And if when you see it on telly, if you look carefully, you'll see a line around the edge of the carpet in red, and that is known as a sword line. And the distance between each edge on both sides of the house is such that only two swords can manage it, so they can't stab one another. So what we've got now is we've got a sword line. So there's enough distance that between when he wants to hit me, which he frequently does, is he can't quite reach me. So that's the benefit of two cameras.
Yeah.
Okay, right now, Fergus Wood and the lovely Annie Verrill, who has gone on to bigger things, and I suppose really one can say that Fergus Wood has. He's gone to be a Marine, believe it or not, and but his wine business is still going in the capable hands of his father. And if you want to buy from Camino del Vino, you can, and you'll find them online. So let's just take a recap, because Stuart Dalby just came in and said, "Oh, I've got lots of exciting things to talk about on Wednesday, because energy and climate change and so on is all in the news." And Stuart joins his worship here, Mad Max, on Wednesday. They take over the entire program to talk about. They look at the headlines and the general news, but then they talk about energy matters, which is one of the key things that Stuart picks on, that needs highlighting during the week. And then they actually go to the things that are happening right now. And there are many things happening in terms of energy and costs and where we're going to go. It's almost a changing scenario. So they discuss those very carefully as well. So that you can expect on Wednesday. On Thursday, his nibs is with Liza Page, and they get stuck into some of the lesser known things that go on. and they puncture some of the conceptions or perceptions that people have about all sorts of things in life.
Yeah, me and her, we tried to find the big stories that are underreported.
There you go. Big stories underreported. We've got everything here. And then on Friday, of course, it will be at 11 o'clock. It'll be the remembrance service, which should take place at 11 o'clock just down the road. 11 o'clock is when we actually call it quits for the day, but I think that we will carry on. It's only a short service, and I think that we'll carry on. And what we'll do, Max, we'll try and get somebody down there with a camera of some sort, even if it's only on a phone, and bring the ceremony to you. It's only a stone's throw away, but it is a very important one, and it's in our broadcast, almost within our broadcast day, and so we will carry that on. So where are we now? Well, we looked at the headlines being partly Matt Hancock, partly the cost of living, and partly the climate change conference taking place in Egypt. And of course, there are day-to-day ongoing things such as the war in Ukraine and a number of other things that are ongoing, and we try to cover as much as we possibly can. Where shall we go now?
Well, I have a story.
You're right. Max has got a story.
So the Monday, the 8th of May, 2023, is officially now the bank holiday for the King's coronation.
Right.
Just so everyone's aware, this was released.
That's a Monday, is it?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Okay.
So we'll have a 3-day weekend.
Right. Okay. But also, one wonders. The king has said that he wants it to be a fairly low-key affair, or compared to what his mother had. I wonder just whether are we going to have street parties again? Are we going to have dancing in the streets? Are we going to have big parties elsewhere, dinners and lunches and all sorts of things? Will we see I'm sure we'll see earthenware, a crockery or whatever, with his picture on. I mean, for some people, it will be the only coronation that they'll ever see. It'll be your first coronation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, I don't think there will be many street parties. It seems from like the statistics and the polls that's the word I was trying to find. The polls that are going on. I don't think people are as enthusiastic as they once were about the monarchy.
Yeah, well, it's possible with a new king. He'll have to make his way. He'll have to build trust in his subjects, and there is no question that I think that things will be different. But in Lewis alone, there are at least half a dozen areas that will have a street party at the drop of a hat. And I would have thought that they will find this as a good reason to do so. It will be interesting. And the other thing is it's May. It's January, February, March, April, May. It's 7-8 months away yet. And these things tend to build towards a peak of excitement. So we'll see. We'll see whether you're right, Max, and the enthusiasm for that sort of celebration has gone out of our lives, or whether, in fact, it's just in a temporary lull, particularly since we're having a very, very bad time as individuals and as a nation at the moment. We are falling out. We don't agree on anything. Our parliamentarians don't agree on anything. We don't agree with it much for the rest of the world. And generally speaking, because of inflation and the cost of living and the financial crises, is we are tending to find that we are concentrating on that at the moment rather than anything else. However, those things were building when the late Queen died, and the pomp and circumstance surrounding her wedding, her funeral, was considerable. So let's see. It will remain to be seen. But we still are a constitutional monarchy. That is the way that we're governed, and that's the way we're likely to be governed for a good many years yet to come. So we do need to celebrate the coronation in some particular way. Right, okay. Have you got any more stories?
Not directly on hand. I do have some backed up somewhere. Oh yeah, I had a question for you.
All right, okay.
It was about Canada.
Yes,
When did you first go to Canada?
58. Oh, sorry. I went in 54, 55. I went, my first visit to Canada was as a scout, as a Queen Scout. And I went to the first World Jamboree that was held after the war, and it was held at Niagara on the Lake in Ontario. And that's where I went and first got my love for Canada. And I then went back in 1958. That was the first time I went to live for any substantial length of time. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Well, because I found a list of Canadian flags and how they've changed. You've been through 3 Canadian flags since you first went.
Yes.
I didn't know they used to have a similar flag to New Zealand or Australia. They had the British flag in the corner, but then they got rid of the British watermark, I suppose I can describe it as.
Yeah.
Back to not back to, but to the maple leaf, and that's what it is today. And
Well,
has
it
been
was a
since-
prime minister called Lester Pearson. When I went to Canada, the prime minister was a man known as John Diefenbaker, a conservative, and then Lester Pearson took over as a liberal prime minister. And one of the big sticking points with Canada has always been French Canadians and English Canadians or British Canadians or whatever, or others, because so many of them were Poles and so on, mid-Europeans. But Pearson decided that we should have a flag that represented all parts of Canada. And I can remember quite clearly at university where everybody was invited to put in a sample of the flag. And I think I did myself, except I think actually it had Buckingham Palace on it. But the various representations were made, and eventually I think it was a committee that selected the winning design, and that's it. At the time, it was a bit odd to begin with, but now, of course, it is seen in every corner of the world, and I've got used to it, and I think everybody else has. In fact, they've forgotten the flags, as you said. I've been through 3 flags. They've forgotten what the original flags looked like. So yes, I think the flag was adopted. Does it say something like 1960, perhaps?
So the present one was 1965.
Oh, 65, as late as that?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't realised it was as late as that. I thought that it was about 60, 63. Well, no, it could be 65, could be.
So in 1957, they had the British flag in the corner, and I suppose I could describe it as like a shield,
Right.
and it has lots of little images on the shield, and then they changed it again, but they just changed the color of the shield, and then in 1965 they completely got rid of everything and just changed it to the maple leaf.
And a maple leaf with 2 red stripes down.
Yeah.
On a white background. Yeah.
It's a very nice flag, actually.
It is a nice flag. It is, and the marvelous thing is that it doesn't plump for either the French Canadian side or the English Canadian side. It tries to be a word I hate, but it tries to be inclusive and to get everybody involved in there.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Canadian elections must be the easiest elections to vote for because you just don't vote for the French person.
Well, no, I mean, to be quite honest with you, there is a little place in British Columbia called Maillardville. It's a tiny little town, and if you go there, The pub is very much like a French tavern. The old boys speak a form of French, and they sit with clay pipes, smoking them, and so on. But that is probably the very rare occasion of French Canadian influence in British Columbia. On the other hand, in Quebec, it's the other way around. That the English influence is not as little as that, but nonetheless, it is a French Canadian province. It is a huge province, and it has lots of villages, and many of those villages are cut off in the winter. They sort of hunker down for the winter, and they are cut off from civilization until the spring runoff. So it's quite an interesting country, and it does have a large number of mid-Europeans because, like America, it welcomed its poor, it's starving and so on into the body of America, of Canada, and brought them into citizenship. My own wife's family were Russian via or the German via Russia, sorry, and came to the Canadian prairies, where my wife remembers as a very little girl, or remembered, God bless her soul, remembered as a little girl, where the chill factor of the wind on the temperature reached minus 60 degrees. Can you imagine? Minus 60 degrees. Freeze your balls off. Right, where should we go now? Because we are expecting eventually, in the not too distant future, I hope, Suzanne Mouchot this morning. She spoke to us late last night, her time, and said, "I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to stand by." But let me just see what we've got there, Max, and I think that
the Russian final.
Is the Russian trains. We could go, as you know, what we do.
No, we could do the autism one. It's long, but we could play part of it.
All right, play part of it and then cut in when Suzanne comes. Yes. All right. Let's take a look at autism. Is a problem. Is a problem area for those people caught up in it. And we often don't understand it, and therefore, as a society, we make life difficult and we lash out. So one of the young men who worked for us for a short period of time, it was he was slightly autistic, but he had a big. He got into a conversation with and association with people who faced autism every day of their lives with various children, and he made this documentary. So here it is, a look at autism.
Here we go.
Hi, I'm Dawn from New Jersey.
Hi, 我是臧启亮，我来自中国。
My name is Jack. I'm travelling Australia at the moment. I'm currently in Cairns.
Hi, my name's Julie, and I'm from Mayfield, East Sussex.
And autism to me is like snowflakes. There's not one true look or one true style. Every single person with autism is unique, special, and magical. I would say too that no person is autistic. They have autism. Just like you have 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, and 2 ears. It's just part of you, but it doesn't define you.
对我来说，孤独症像是一种不完美，但这个世界本来就不是完美的呀。孤独症患者也只是普通人，像我一样过着平凡的人生，只是这种平凡的人生对他们来说却更加艰难。我为他们而感到骄傲。
To me, having Asperger's is something that has always been in the background to some degree, but I've managed to deal with it for most of my life because I've had friends and family to, demonstrate to me that I can do everything just like everybody else.
Autism to me is my son, who sees the world through a different lens and walks to the beat of his own drum. but it's also crippling anxiety and extreme demand avoidance to try and help that anxiety. It's my son working hard every single day to mask his autism, just to try and fit in with the world around him. It's wearing nothing but pants at home, because clothes are just too much for his sensory issues. It's being talked at, in depth, at great length. It's talking, but never really speaking. It's not understanding emotions, and also being unable to regulate your emotions. Autism is just autism. It's a different way of looking at the world. Autism is what makes my son the wonderful, clever, unique person he is.
My name is Max Brown and I work at the University of Sussex and I am a student advisor for students with autism.
My name's Phil Rowland. I'm a teacher and I live in Uckfield.
I'm Debbie and I obviously live in Uckfield as well. And I'm a Special Educational Needs Coordinator, which is a SENCO.
My name's Julie. I am mum to Sam. Sam's 8 now and was finally diagnosed with autism and sensory processing disorder and severe anxiety. Actually, it was May 2017. It was a long road to get that diagnosis.
We have the 3 boys, that's what we have. I guess we don't know what a normal child is like. So we don't really know how much of what their behaviour is actually just normal sibling behaviour and how much is it because of the autism and that sort of thing. So we don't know.
True.
All 3 on the autistic spectrum, 2 with a diagnosis.
Twins.
They are twins, non-identical twins, but very different.
To be diagnosed with autism, you fall into what's called the triad of impairments. So it's a condition that affects someone's social behaviour. So the triad of impairments affects your social communication, your understanding of social interaction, and your social imagination. Unfortunately, the way that autism is classified, it's from an approach that classifies a person as having a deficit in those 3 areas of social functioning.
So Ewan was diagnosed first. I guess we noticed things with him earlier because his is more, I guess, behavioural. We noticed very early with him.
Very physical.
He was very, very physical.
Yeah.
Hello, Suzanne, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good. That's good to see you guys.
We're trying a new thing at the moment. We've got 2 different cameras for me and Keith. We're both sitting next to each other. If I lean over, you can see me.
I know you look very professional, I have to say. And Keith, you look amazing. I love your scarf with your shirt and your pocket square. You look amazing.
It's covering up the fact that I'm falling to pieces.
Oh no! Don't do that.
Are you well?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, my oldest daughter's in college, so she's gonna come home for Thanksgiving soon, so that'll be nice. But things are going okay. I'm going again next week. I travel to California and then Vancouver again. So
we're off on our travels. Yes.
Yeah, next week. But yeah, things are going okay. We had crazy warm weather. It was 75 degrees Fahrenheit in New York this weekend, which is crazy.
Absolutely.
But,
crazy all over the
We
world.
had awful weather all weekend, constant rain. What was it, 75?
75, yeah.
Let me see what that is in English.
I know what
Check that in
75 is. It's hot.
That is 23 degrees.
Yeah. Not bad at all. At first, Suzanne, I can't. The camera where it's located and we're experimenting is covering my face a little bit, so I couldn't tell whether I was on or I was off. So when I was chatting to you there, but anyway, welcome back, because We had hoped to have you on Saturday, of course, and we got the wrong email address for you.
Yes.
But now it should be embedded in the system so we can get hold of you day and night.
All right. Well, I'm here, ready to give whatever kind of news one may want from the United
Well, first of all, I mean, I love the idea of your university being spread across a continent. And I think that it might be a good idea to explain how an American university can spread across a continent like that and be in several places. I mean, I'm thrilled that you're in Vancouver, of course, because that was my old stomping ground.
Oh, the college you were at what college was that? Oh, university. Sorry.
Well, me.
Suzanne, when you were joining me last week, you were in Vancouver. What university was that?
It's New York Institute of Technology. It's the same university that I work in. So we have 4 campuses. So 2 are in New York, 1 is in Vancouver, Canada, and then 1 is in Jonesboro, Arkansas. So, but the way that we ended up there is the way a lot of American universities have done this kind of global kind of spread. Like NYU, New York University did it, Cornell, Columbia. They have campuses in other parts of the world, and sometimes it's for foreign study, and sometimes it's actually for the people in those countries to actually go to an American university. And then others, it's actually for really people from other countries to go to a new country to actually gain citizenship. So that's what happens in Vancouver. Canada is very pro-immigration. So, I mean, the great story about our university is that the majority of the students are women, and the majority of our students come from India and Iran, Pakistan, and then China as well. And so once they come to Vancouver and we only have a graduate school, so they either have an MBA or a master's in cybersecurity or an energy management degree, then they can apply for citizenship in Canada. So it's like a real path to freedom for a lot of them. So that's how we became involved. And because it's a big tech center in the West, and as I said, they're pro-immigration and pro-university there. So it's not impossible to start a university there. So.
Why have you got mostly ladies?
I don't think it was purposeful, but it emerged out of a few. They started the university there in 2004, I believe. And it just kind of emerged after a while. It's and it's not like an overwhelming majority. It's about 60%, so 60-40. But I think it's actually more just kind of what's happening in the world today has sort of presented this condition. But we're happy about it. So.
Yes, I mean I'm actually all for it. I am well known for saying that I don't believe in ratios. Artificially creating this group and that group. I always look for the best. And if in fact you're attracting the best students and they happen to be ladies, is so much the better.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And because it's graduate school, you already have to have obviously an undergraduate degree. So and they don't accept every student. I mean, it's a very competitive kind of discipline to get into, all of them. So yeah, and we're expanding. So we're doing all this great work up there. So it's nice to go there, and hopefully this project will be finished in November. That's the plan. So it's great.
How do you recruit?
All of the university, I mean, we're not the only ones there. Northeastern started a campus there too. I mean, just in general, there are people who do recruitment and admissions and enrollment. So, I mean, you have people who you hire to be part of university to do the active, work, but then there's also people who do this more as a consultant base too. So.
I've got a question for you there. I see you have something in the background of your screen. It's a green screen. What is that? What is
That
building?
is, I thought I would put it up behind me. That is the Kennedy Library. That's in Dorchester, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. So, the John F.
Okay.
Kennedy Presidential Library, and my dad designed it. So it's one of my father's buildings.
Oh, really?
But tomorrow is election day in the United States, so I thought I would put up a presidential library behind me. It's not the presidential. Not the
So
presidential.
tomorrow is the start of the midterms, is it?
Yes, it is the midterm. So everybody's been able to vote for the past, I mean, depending on what state you're in, people have been able to vote for the last 2 months or 2 weeks, sorry. And tomorrow's the last day. So.
Okay. And when are the results declared?
Well, because of all the early voting and the absentee ballots, I would imagine it's going to take a week or so. But we'll know pretty well. A lot of states will know by tomorrow night. But keep our fingers crossed.
That seems crazy to me because it takes 2 weeks to register. I mean, here it's instant, pretty much.
Yeah, they don't. Depending on the state that you're in, if you do early voting, it's not registering. Everybody's registered, but it's early voting, so you're allowed to vote early. Some states will count that vote right away once they get it, and some states wait until election day to count everything. So,
do we allow early voting?
Yes, I actually do have the opportunity to vote by post. It's known as a postal vote. And mainly for people who are out of the country or can't reach a polling booth. In my case, of course, I was away for so many years on election days, and I didn't want to miss it. So I'm registered for postal voting. I don't know that we call it early voting, and I'm not sure that we have anything known as early voting, only postal voting.
Postal voting is the only early voting
so,
that
yeah.
I know of.
Yeah.
Like where we can just go up to somewhere and vote early, 2 weeks in advance. We don't have anything like that.
That's right.
I don't think so.
Now, Suzanne, just following on from that, and we had a nice chat to Melissa on Friday about it, is Mr. Trump Mr. Donald Trump has said that if the polls go rather well for the Republicans, he may well throw his hat in the ring for another tilt at the presidency. Where does that stand at the moment? Is he still saying that? Because I think on BBC television this morning they showed a rally which he was at, and people getting excited about him. What's the status quo there?
Yeah, well, currently he's out on the campaign trail for others. So he's supporting all of the people that he supports right now. So he had a rally for in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a big battleground state. We're fighting to, well, both sides are fighting to retain or to take over the Senate, actually. So there's two individuals who are neck and neck in Pennsylvania. So Obama was there, Biden was there, as well as Trump, and they kind of did their tour of the state. But yeah, he's still saying that he might run, but he hasn't made it official yet. So
now I'm not saying this. I'm just reporting what was in one of our newspapers or a couple of our newspapers, and that is that Joe Biden has started to lose popularity among some of the people that saw him into the White House in the first place. Is that your feeling?
I think what's happening right now, which I think is happening all over the world, is that inflation is just so distressing to the everyday person, you know? And typically, once it comes to election day, it's whatever is the most kind of pressing issue when you go to the ballot box. And right now, it's inflation. I mean, I was at the supermarket yesterday, and butter was $10. I mean, who spends $10 on butter? Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And I mean, some things are leveling off, like gas has leveled off. It's still high, but at least it's not, climbing.
Yeah,
so that's the battle. Yeah.
Sorry. Since ours has gone down about 40p per litre, so it's pretty good.
Yeah. The same with us. I mean, right now it's under $4 a gallon, which
wow, $4 a gallon.
Yeah, it's $3.85 a gallon or so.
In my day in Vancouver, I think it was 60p a gallon.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, it's like you all kind of change your frame of reference. We're just glad it's no longer $5 a gallon, you know.
What was it at its peak where you are?
It went up to $5, yeah.
$5. Jesus.
Yeah.
What will it settle down to, do you think?
I think it's going to stay here, unfortunately. Like maybe go up to 4, but I don't. I look. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I mean, fortunately, you know, we're in the same boat that you're in. You know, it's like we're all trying to either stay warm or cool until this war is over. But I mean, if the weather stays warm, then maybe we don't have to worry about the heating cycle. I don't know. Maybe it's a gift.
Yeah, well, we're getting stories in this country that people might be freezing to death due to the cost of living crisis here. People will be freezing to death because they can't afford to put their heating on.
Yeah, no, I know. It's that's the choice that people will be making this winter.
Yeah. But is that real?
I don't know.
I'm asking Suzanne. Is that real?
I mean, in the United States, hopefully, I mean, we always have cooling and heating centers. So if somebody is in distress, they can go to like, you know, areas that have the heating or have the cooling. Because in the summertime, a lot of people don't have air conditioning, and it can get up to 100 degrees in the city, you know, Fahrenheit. So, yeah, we have cooling centers. So you can go and sit in the air conditioning if it's too hot. Yeah. So, I've got a light show going on. But
do they charge you for it?
No, they don't charge you for it. I mean, this is in New York. I don't know what happens in other states. Every state's different, you know. I mean, but I know Florida has it too.
Oh well, yeah, Florida, I can understand.
Yeah.
Now, Suzanne, I follow you on Facebook, and last night or yesterday afternoon, I went to watch an international rugby match with my friend Janet Evans, who is my blue-arsed fly. And I said, Janet, tomorrow I am going to talk across the Atlantic to my other blue-arsed fly, who zips around just as fast as you do at all sorts of places. So you have been on the move in the last little while. So give us a little bit of a diary of the Musho family's movements.
All right. Well, I was in Italy. So that was, look, Melissa just said something. Hey.
Yeah, we got a comment from Melissa here. Good morning, Suzanne, Max, and Keith. Ted is so impressed. Is Ted her son?
Sorry?
Is Ted her son?
Ted?
Ted.
No, Connor is.
Oh, Ted is my dad. Ted is my dad.
Oh, okay.
Right, because there was a photo last night on Facebook of my father.
Right.
Yeah, with my daughter and my So thank you, Melissa. I know Melissa got to meet my dad because when she was visiting the city, we were walking towards this job site, and I was explaining to her that my dad's always at the job site, you know, learning more information about it. It's this huge building that's going up. I think it's 1.2 million square feet. It's by Norman Foster. It's the JP Morgan building. Anyway, my dad's been watching it kind of emerge out of the earth. And so we walked by, and he was there on a Sunday morning still watching the construction. So it was pretty funny. But I was in Italy, and that was amazing. I mean, it was just, you know, fantastic. I went to Verona and to Venice. And Verona was just adorably beautiful. And it was... I had a ton of my friends who were there, so we went to see Sermione. I don't know if you've ever heard of that little island that's off the coast of. It's like right in. It sits on Lake Garda, and then. But the best part was going to Venice. I took one of my friends had this big kind of conference group that he was running, and he rented this kind of huge kind of looking pirate ship sort of boat, and all of us got on this big pirate ship, and then we floated into Venice on this big boat, which was really fantastic. And then I had never been to actually Murano and Burano, so I got to see the stained where they make the stained glass in Murano, and then Burano is the town that has all the amazing colored houses and buildings. So but it was a great trip. And then I came back, and then I went to Vancouver, and that was nice. Vancouver is actually looking really beautiful. They have a real problem with homeless. Not that New York doesn't. New York does too. But that was hard to see. But the campus is going to reopen soon. We're going to have this new location with all new great things for the students. And then Saturday, I fly to Palm Springs, California for a conference, and I'm going to be on part of a panel talking about encouraging more women in my field, in capital planning and things like that in higher education. So, and then I go back to Vancouver to hopefully close out the job. So that's my hope.
Oh, so you report to us from many places.
Yes, I'll try to. I'll be in California on Monday, so I can definitely do Monday.
Oh, excellent.
From California and Palm Springs too, from the desert. So you guys get to see what the desert looks like.
Oh yes, wonderful. Absolutely. Yeah. I haven't been. I've been briefly to San Francisco and briefly to Los Angeles, but other than that, the West Coast. Well, no, sorry. The West Coast, of course, is Oregon and Washington State. I was a frequent visitor because I lived in British Columbia. Would pop over the border for a beer, or to play rugby or something. But the California side of things, no, it's still a bit of a mystery to me. I put my hand in Lowe's Chinese restaurant to show how famous I was, and came away with just cement on my hand. So what else is cooking in the week?
Well, this week we're doing a dedication of a gallery at the university. One of my good friends at the university passed away last year, and we named an art student, an art gallery and a student lounge after her. So Thursday night is the dedication. So that'll be nice. Her family will be there, and we'll be, kind of talking and reminiscing and telling great stories about how terrific she was. So that'll be nice. That's Thursday night. And then what else is going on? We're trying to do a new building on campus. So we have a lot of work around that. And I'm also teaching a little bit this semester. So I teach students on Friday morning. So that's really nice. I enjoy doing that. The students are great. So the students present their business plans this Friday. So I can't wait to see them.
All right. Does that mean a lot of marking for you, though? A lot of reading for you?
Yeah, but it's not so bad. There's only 7 students in the class, so it's not too hard. But they just took their midterm and did well. I'm sorry?
How many are in the class?
Only 7.
7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's manageable, isn't it? I actually went back to teaching myself a week ago, 10 days ago. But I had a lady from Nigeria, and then for 2 days I had a lady from, or 2 ladies, one from Qatar, which is a very controversial area, of course, and the other from Saudi Arabia, also controversial. And I have to say that they weren't the easiest of students to deal with. But there you are. I launched back in my teaching. I do it from time to time, but not as regularly as you do.
Well, that's great. I'm sure they loved it. What were you teaching?
Some of them did.
What were you teaching?
Well, in the one I was teaching public relations, advanced public relations, and in the second batch it was called protocol and event management. But they were much more interested in event management than protocol, I'm afraid, which is my specialty.
I think most people are.
Oh, you're like Private Benjamin. Did you ever see that?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
It's very amusing. It was Goldie Hawn, was it not?
Yes, Goldie Hawn. Yes.
Yes.
Terrific.
Yes. It is. I actually am a great fan of Goldie Hawn's, basically because I met her very briefly once.
Ah, nice.
Yes. She used to be with the Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In.
Ah.
And you don't remember that, do you? You're far too young. In the 1960s, there was a program that came out of Hollywood called Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, and it had a whole cast of Rowan and Martin were comedians. It had a whole cast of Henry Gibson and so on, all of whom took little vignettes. And Goldie Hawn played the dizzy blonde, which she always tends to try and look. But in fact, I understand that she's one of Hollywood's smartest businesswomen.
I'm pretty sure of that too. I mean, she seems to be doing well even now, and she's carved out quite a life for her. And then her husband, of course, is so handsome.
Oh, is he?
Smart. Yeah,
Oh,
Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell is like, and they've been together for like 40 years or something like that, something crazy like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good, stable. I always think that stable marriages in Hollywood show some depth and abilities in a star. Not many of them manage it, but.
Sorry, I've just looked up Kurt Russell. He was handsome when he was younger, yeah. In his younger years.
Yeah, he's still a handsome man. I think he's still handsome. But yes, he was really, really handsome when he was younger.
And when he was younger.
Oh, goodness. Oh, gosh, I know him. Yes, I've seen him in movies.
I recognise the name.
Yeah.
I had to put a face on the name because I couldn't remember.
That's
they
going
did a really cool movie together. What?
He was a very well known face in his day.
Yeah. They were in a lot of movies together too. So
yeah,
with Hollywood marriages, they almost never last.
I know, it's such a shame.
They last like 2 or 3 years. If I'm honest, I think it's mostly like sort of publicity they're looking for, and get married and then divorce very quickly afterwards. There aren't too many that have lasted long.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope that no one gets married thinking that it will end, but maybe people do. But I'm 19 years with my husband.
Yes, indeed. And how many children have you got?
I'm sorry?
How many children have you got?
We have 3 children.
And a very fine family, as I say. I follow you on Facebook, and I really do like. I love it when you put out pictures of the picnics and when Granddad comes to visit and all the family things, because family life in the States, I think, can be very, very fruitful. It can be very, very gratifying. Family life here used to be terrific. I'm not sure whether it still is, but. Then I'm looking back from an exalted age.
It's not. No, I mean I was very lucky. Most families are split up. It's majority. I think it's something like 40% are single parent households in this country, which is a huge number of households. I was very lucky, even though I did grow up in a 1-parent household and still do. I'm very family orientated. I'm one of the few people in my generation who actually want to have a family, which is a real shame. No one else my age really wants to have kids.
Wow, that's crazy. I don't know what I think all the students that I have, they definitely want to have families, but yeah, well, we're about ready to have our Thanksgiving, which is the big family event when everyone gets together from all over. So, families that live in different parts of the country will all come home for Thanksgiving and have a big dinner and then of course have the proverbial huge argument where no one gets along and then they wait for next year to just do it all over again. But
has Thanksgiving gone?
No, it's November 20. It's Thursday, November 23rd, I think. Let me see.
Oh, right. I knew it was in November, but I couldn't remember whether it was the beginning or the end.
Oh, no, it's the end. Yeah, it's the 4th Thursday, I think, the 4th Thursday, yeah.
Well, now, if I'm not mistaken, the turkey is a centerpiece of an American Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes, that is correct, yes. So making a good turkey is a talent, as you probably know. And then, I always say if the turkey doesn't go well, there's always pizza. There's always pizza available on Thanksgiving if the turkey doesn't go properly. But and also other things, other staples are like sweet potatoes and cranberries, and obviously mashed potatoes are a big thing. Pecan pie, pumpkin pie. I went apple picking a couple weeks ago with my friends, and that was really fun. And I just made another dish last night, cinnamon apples with a strudel on it. So that was really good. Apple picking is hilarious. Have you guys ever been apple picking?
I have, not in a long time though.
Oh, you have to do it again. I think it's such a good thing.
Yeah.
And the apples are good for a really long time if you pick them
When
yourself.
I was a little boy, it was called scrumping. You would sneak into a person's orchard and steal the apples off the tree.
Uh-huh. We did not steal these. We were allowed to take these apples. So.
Oh, you weren't scrumping then?
No, we weren't scrumping. I like that word, though. I think I have to use that
it's
word.
A nice
again.
word, isn't it? Scrumping.
Yes, scrumping.
Yeah. And it was always considered a naughty crime. If you were caught, you were told off. And that was it. You know, you put a flea in the ear.
So it was sort of just a small misdemeanor there, huh?
Absolutely, yes. It's not considered theft.
And would you ever try to take more than one apple, or was that really what you considered to be the
Oh, you could take as many as your little pockets would hold.
Okay.
You didn't go in with a big sack or anything to raid a tree. You did it for sort of almost personal consumption.
That's great. I know, it's so funny when you go to these huge farms, you prepay for either a half of a bushel or a peck, you know, and then they give you a bag, you know, and then you fill it up. And I think it's the only time you ever use those terms. I mean, other than at an apple orchard, at, you know, apple picking time, no one ever uses half a bushel and a peck, you know. But there's a song about that, a bushel and a peck, right? Anyway.
I don't know the song, no.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll sing it for you next time.
Actually, tied to apple pie, two things. First of all, you eat cheese with it.
With apple pie?
Yes.
Really?
I don't.
No, but it is traditional across America that you eat cheese with apple pie.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Did you not know that?
No.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, we don't do it here, and that's where I picked up the habit of having a slice of cheese on top of the apple pie.
I mean, it sounds good.
Yeah. Now, when you're in Vancouver, say to them, "Can I have cheese with my apple pie?" and see what reaction you get, and then report back.
Okay, I will. I will do that. I know that brie tastes really good with apples, so we bought brie and we warmed it up and we had that with apples and bread. That's always good.
Is it true that Americans just put cheese with everything?
I mean, it's sort of true, yeah. Yeah, like cheddar cheese and American cheese, we like put it on there. It's true, yeah. I mean, I don't, but in general, it's hard to not have cheese on something. Like hamburgers, always everybody orders a cheeseburger. I'm not a big fan of cheeseburgers, but
oh, I love cheeseburgers.
Do you?
I can't wait. When I go at some point, I would love to come to America and just try American food, like because you guys have just insane portions of food compared to what we have.
That's true too. Yeah.
And I do want to try at least once in my life a supersized meal from McDonald's. I don't like McDonald's. I haven't been there in a couple of years, but it would just be interesting to see what it's like to have the supersized meals or whatever, because I've seen documentaries on them before.
Yeah, no, I know. There's some really crazy documentaries about somebody who ate only McDonald's, but I would say you should come to America for more than just the McDonald's, Max, please.
Well,
now, Suzanne, there is another phrase or saying as wholesome as apple pie, which is an American phrase. Where did that one come from?
I don't know. It probably came from the apple pie company. What's it, like Betty Crocker or something like that? It was probably a publicity thing. It's like, eat our apple pie and you'll be right in line with all the wholesome Americans. I don't know.
Well, it is a wholesome thing. It's, you know, you go apple picking with the family and then you cook the food with the family and eat it with the family. It is a wholesome thing.
We also do pumpkin picking. That's what we used to do with the kids when they were little, and that was always so fun. And my husband would just flip out because the kids would always pick the biggest pumpkin, which of course is the most expensive, and he's got to carry it. And then we get here, and then we would carve it, and he's like, there is no use for a carved pumpkin. It's just something that just sits there and rots. It's really funny.
I've never heard of pumpkin picking before.
Oh yeah, you get to go pumpkin pick, and then I never made pumpkin soup, but that's what I should have done. But
strangely enough, the fields that I actually saw with lots of pumpkins left in them and required picking were in France. And I hadn't realized that the French grow vast quantities of pumpkins, far more than we do in this country. And it is a sort of a staple fruit to be sold. But like everybody, particularly the further deeper into the country you get, they have difficulty finding people who want to go and break their back picking the pumpkin.
Yeah, no, I know. They can get really heavy and really huge. I guess, well, they usually take them off the patch, and then you really just pick them up. I mean, you're not taking them off any sort of vine or tree or plant or something, you know. But I would love to go potato picking.
Now that is backbreaking. I experienced it because during the or towards the after the end of the last war, food was very short, and farmers grew potatoes in great quantities, and they actually at one time the schools were given time off, given holidays, so that the children could go potato picking because the labor for doing so was so short. But believe me, if you wanted to use the term backbreaking, go pick some potatoes.
Yeah. No, I know, because you actually have to dig for it, right? And you have to bend over to dig, and then you have to pull them out.
Having said that, we lived in Northern Ireland, of course, during the Troubles when I was over there as a reporter. And we did live for a while on a farm, and the farmer he grew new potatoes in a place called Cumber, actually, and Cumber is famous for its new potatoes. And he just left a fork in the field and said, Keith, anytime you want them, just go and dig them up. And there is nothing like a new potato, new and fresh out of the field. The taste is absolutely remarkable, quite different to anything that you get in the shops.
I believe it. I'm telling you, just picked anything is so much better. So I'm going to definitely try it. I don't know where I'm going to do that. There used to be a lot of potato farms on Long Island. It was a big potato farm. In fact, my sister's husband's family had several potato farms, but they don't have them anymore. So I think, agriculture has decreased in the United States. So.
Yes, and yet you're such a vast country, aren't you? I mean, one of the impressive things I found was I flew from Chicago to Decatur, Illinois, which is about a 2-hour flight, but on a small commuter aircraft. So you only fly about 2,000 feet above the ground, and you get a very, very good view of the farming country. And in fact, Decatur is the headquarters of one of the big farming operations, Archer, Midland, Daniel, I think, in the United States. So you certainly see the agricultural side of things in that part of the world.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, in different parts of the country. When I was flying to Vancouver and back, I mean, it's just amazing what you see through the plane. I mean, the Rocky Mountains have to be the most spectacular looking thing from the plane. I mean, it's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing, what's the other famous thing about Decatur?
I don't know. What?
Lincoln taught there, or actually practiced law there prior to the Civil War.
Ah.
I'm full of useless knowledge.
No, it's good to know, I mean, maybe it inspired him to make sure that that we ended slavery in the country,
Well, the one thing that I did realize about Decatur it is a typical American small town with all the features that you're taught small towns have. The football team, the basketball team, the parks, the type of dwellings, the stores, and so on. And it was just a showpiece for that, a showcase. Here's our lovely Liza Page, who is just going past. I guess she's going to come in. But anyway, what's the time, Suzanne? Oh, it's past. Is it? No, it's 10 to 11. We're okay for a moment or two. Yeah. I mean, I just love the countryside in the United States. None of it is the same, of course, but so much of it is typical, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's particularly in the middle of America. There's a lot of similarities in the landscape, but then you have the coastlines that really have different influences, and then the Great Lakes. It's all different around the Great Lakes. Yeah. It's a great country. We just have to make sure that we stay together and find common ground. But I guess it's true about every country in the world right now. Everybody's sort of finding their way.
No, that's true. It's very unsettled. But what do you find at the moment reflects architecture?
What inspires our architecture right now?
Yes, the fashion that you find amongst your students now, or in fact you teach. What is the driving force?
It's interesting. My students, I teach a class called Professional Practice, so I teach them how to be an architect once they graduate, and then and also open a firm if they want to open a firm once they become licensed. So I was surprised that the majority, actually not even the majority, all of them want to own small firms and design residential buildings and small kind of work, which was not when I was in school. Everybody wanted to do fantastically, amazing, huge projects all around the world. This whole group of students wants to stay local and design in their own area. But I think from what's influencing design right now is really three-dimensional kind of imagination and creativity. So more complicated shapes and things like that are happening. What?
You're right. Sorry, continue. I'll ask a question in a minute.
Yeah, no. So so when you see some of the work, the students have kind of really more complicated shapes, complicated sections, things like that. And then, but my students seem to want to do the more kind of smaller scale, experiential work for people. So that's good. There's a balance. There's something for everybody in architecture. So.
So earlier, you were talking about hoping America sticks together and find common ground. America seems to be one of the more divided countries there are right now in the world, in the Western world. Do you see Americans coming together anytime soon, or do you think it'll be a long time until we see some unification amongst the people? I'm not really sure how to describe it.
I mean, this is my theory that the two ends of the kind of political spectrum, the more progressive kind of liberal end, and then the more kind of strikingly conservative, and that hopefully once again they'll become discounted and the country will be more in the middle. And so the majority, the 60 versus the 20 and the 20, will be able to set the direction again. But unfortunately, there's just been a lot of misinformation out there that has made that 20% closer to 30%. So let's hope that there's a lot more responsibility that goes around and how information is being delivered. I mean, Trump is still saying that the election was stolen, and then he's getting all of his people to say that the election was stolen, and there are literally people who are campaigning around a stolen election, but yet they're asking people to vote for them. It's like, okay, well, only your election will be valid, just not the one that this validates other people. I mean, it's such an insidious plan that people put into place, and they've been doing it for hundreds of years, thousands of years. It's a playbook. You don't have to know what's going on, so or even know history. It's just but I personally have great faith that that centrist viewpoint will reign, and then thereby the country stays together. But I mean, it's happening all over the world. It's just the United States we happen to be a vocal group of people. So it's why you all love us so much. We're just a bunch of wacky, loud people. So, but I do have hope that that we're going to be able to get through this. So,
I mean, if I'm not wrong, I don't see America as a divided country. What I find is that it is a federation of 50 states or 51 states? I can't remember now.
50
states. And if you look at Europe, it's a federation of 27 states, or 26 now that we've left, but adding more on. They remain with a different culture, different viewpoints, and so on.
And different
but
language.
in closing, divided languages, but I mean, generally speaking, the federation exists, even though there are all those differences. And surely America is much the same. The man in the deep south is not going to think like a northerner, and the westerner is not going to feel like a New Yorker. But you can still have them in the membership of the same club.
Yeah, no, completely agreed. And I was actually listening. I love U2, and I was listening to one of their songs. They were singing with Bruce Springsteen and Bono. I didn't know that. I don't know if Bono was the first person to say this, but he said, America is actually more than a country. It's actually an idea, and it's true. We're all constantly trying to figure things out, and there's definitely room for different thinking and being different. It's just it's when the ideas become so polarized and separatist that's when it gets so difficult to be able to stay together. But I have great hope. I have no worries.
Unfortunately, I think we're a couple years behind America. I think I'm starting to see that we're becoming more divided and not getting along as much as we used to in this country. I think we're a couple years behind you. We're not as bad as it is in America, but hopefully everything will eventually even out.
Yeah. Well, you see, I'm different. I don't see it as bad. I see it as different. And I don't think they will ever avoid differences. I mean, let's face it, men in kilts in the 16th century were hurtling down from the highlands and having a go at the lowlands, and the lowlands are having a go at London. And division is, as long as it's not a division that actually fractures a society, I think the division is not a bad thing necessarily.
Well, it's a bit different from the 1600s. They were barbarians.
Well, but actually, in principle, it's not. You see, I mean, we disagree on this. I don't see Britain as divided in the way that you do. What I do see is it's different. It has different enclaves, not least of which is we've got a large immigrant population who are quite different to anything that is, remotely so-called quote British, and that's the sort of thing that eventually healthy societies keep coming out of. I think. Anyway. God bless you all. Suzanne, we've come to the end of our time. It's lovely to have you here. Are we hearing from you from Palm Beach next week? Is it?
Palm Springs. Yeah, I can definitely join next week from Palm Springs. Yep, for sure.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, we should look forward to you under the palm trees with coconuts swinging over your head. And shall we see you in a bikini?
I'm sure. Yeah. that will happen.
Lovely to have you with us as usual, and I'm
All
glad
right.
that you're back and in the fold.
All right, great to see you guys. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that's it for the morning. We will finish our
It's 11 o'clock.
program
exactly.
on autism. Sorry.
It's 11 o'clock
Yeah.
exactly.
Right, exactly. Then we can say goodbye. We will have more programs tomorrow, and Max will be back on Wednesday with Stuart with the usual look at energy. On Thursday with a usual look at all sorts of things, and on Friday I will have Melissa again for us to consider again a different view on the cross-Atlantic relationship between our two great countries. Until then, this is Keith Hayes and Max Hurd saying toodle pip until tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. All right, thank you very much for watching.